That's hilarious. Oh, we're muted.
So we're muted this whole time.
Welcome again.
Oh my god.
We got rocked by
All right.
StreamYard.
What?
Anyways, this is Celsius.
What?
CelsiusX.
Nice, much better. Yes.
Okay, we're good.
Yeah, we're good now. So please, Carl, again.
Yeah. All right. Let's restart. So I'm the chief architect at Celsius, as well as the general manager for CelsiusX. CelsiusX is the DeFi arm of Celsius, which we're building to DeFi, starting with liquidity bridges and wrap tokens. We can talk more about that later. As a person, I used to work in the aerospace space industry, starting with writing software for large military UAVs and the fighter jets platform, and then eventually transitioned to work for JPL, NASA in Pasadena, where we developed some of the flight software for the spacecraft. But one day I just woke up and said, this is too slow, because generally it takes about a decade or more to actually launch a real mission. And I was just telling myself, hey, look, like by the time this thing launches and reaches Mars, I'm gonna have gray hair. I'm not gonna wait to sit around and wait for it, right?
Yeah.
So I got up, I quit my job, moved to New York, and we started a blockchain company. And from there on, we just got into industry from there on. I also worked at Ripple, where I led the XRP ledger team and some of the research, DeFi research, and then Celsius is my current spot.
That's quite a background. I mean, fighter jets to yield farming.
Yeah,
Ripples
yeah.
there. Wow, what a shift though.
So
Had you been interested a lot in crypto before, or?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I was fortunate enough to read the original white paper, Bitcoin white paper, very early on. I believe it's either very late 2009 or early 2010 on the Bitcoin Talk forum. That was the only place people were talking about crypto. These days, it's on Twitter and everywhere, right?
Yeah.
I remember I get triggered all the time going on the forums. People thought Bitcoin was a scam, right? But when you read the paper, everything made sense, right? It's like a integration of like multiple technologies into one and made that happen, right? So yeah, so ever since 2009, 2010, and when Ethereum came out, it was revolutionary, right? Like for the first time, we're able to have decentralized compute. And I didn't really get into crypto professionally until 2017, so a little late. But I kept my eyes on the projects all the time, right? I still remember reading the EVM implementation in C++, which was authored by Gavin Wood. And I was like, man, I didn't know the guy who wrote the paper is also the guy who was writing the code, right? I thought it would be some other software engineer, so super cool. Yeah.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, like really, really crypto OG here, man.
Yeah, for real. For real. And then so Vivek, are you like the personal trainer? You're like all buff and everything with the Celsius personal trainer. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Our security strong.
Yeah.
Bodyguard.
No, it's similar to Carl. Started off in a different industry. I started off on Wall Street, so I was a junk bond trader, which they then rebranded to high yield bonds because wanted to soften the degen yield farming that we did on Wall Street before it was even invented. And I was at 4 different banks. I was in New York for 10 years, and it was a great run. You learn a lot. You learn all about the different financial products that exist, and ironically, a lot of them are now transferring over to DeFi today. So it's a super natural progression. But also after 10 years, similar to Carl, just had a moment where I was like, this is just moving too slow. And I already have gray hair. So I want more gray hair before trying something just a little bit more like entrepreneurial and innovative and a more fast moving industry. So I also had that moment where left all of Wall Street, left New York, just left everything behind, went and traveled for a little bit and thought about what to do next. Did some real estate, which I thought was cool. Learned all about collateral. So
yeah.
So that's also the basis for DeFi as well. And then finally, I was late to crypto. I got in right before COVID. Wall Street had a sort of sense of ignoring the crypto movement for a while as a scam, and I drank the Kool-Aid because you don't really want that much change. Like change and technology are disruptive. But finally, when I was unshackled from that, I realized this is actually really, really innovative, and it combines everything. It combines economics, combines finance, combines personal freedom, combines governance. It's one of the most like interesting rabbit holes ever. So dove super deep into Bitcoin, then very, very quickly moved on to Ethereum, which has utility. It's Bitcoin with utility. And then just did a bunch of personal DeFi exploration and degenning for a couple of years, which is awesome because on Wall Street, I was a market maker, but just not an automated market maker. So I do the exact same thing. When you trade junk bonds, you experience impermanent loss all the time. Like you're always taking trades you don't want to take. You're earning fees to offset. It's the exact same model.
Yeah.
So it's cool to get into DeFi and just see all that programmatically created. But then after like a year and a half, I realized that like to scale up in crypto, want to do something bigger, and then connected with Carl, and Carl told me what he's building at CelsiusX and how it's DeFi arm of Celsius, and it's the whole team is super DeFi degen native and decentralization axis and everything. I was like, yeah, I have to come join, try and help out. So
how did you guys meet? Because you said
He applied, I think.
Oh, okay, you connected with. Okay,
I was like,
You were walking by New York and you kind of saw him. And
no, I saw his resume. I was like, high yield bonds. So this guy was trading shit bonds before there's shit coins, right? Because there was no shit coins
We
back in the
need
day,
that.
right? So we need that.
yeah. I mean, it must be very interesting for you because you come from a place where everything's very mechanical, right? Like very like, I guess like not online. And now it's
all
like you're
manual.
trading everything.
It's actually all manual. It was like Wall Street's all about, and this is something that Wall Street does right. I mean, I think the whole world's a positive sum game. I think all these worlds, crypto, TradFi can all exist. But Wall Street does, and what Wall Street does really well is relationship building and trust building and all that stuff. Like in person, this is the first Fireside chat you guys have had in person. We were always in person, but when it became programmatic, it just makes so much more sense. Like trading bonds should not be manual. We shouldn't be doing trades on the phone.
Yeah, you gotta call Vivek. Hey, can I have some addicts? Yeah,
through the chat.
Yeah, it's wild, but this is such a natural evolution. But yeah, I had a lot of my crypto on Celsius, and so I was always curious like how Celsius made its money. And unlike like Celsius is involved in DeFi, it's involved in CeFi, institutional. I thought it was fascinating, so just dug in, started learning, and then that's how I connected with Carl.
And so, just why'd you choose Celsius to kind of throw most of your money in terms of crypto into?
Honestly, I mean, this is a whole like different convo about decentralization, but like not all people want to manage their keys, and not all people want to like you want some part of your stack that in a place that acts like a bank. You want some part that you have complete custody over. You have some part you can degen yield farm. So Celsius did a really, really good job with yield, with custody. Did a lot of research into like what the stack is with Fireblocks, and I mean, arguably some people will end up losing their money just by self custody, and wanted to mitigate that risk. So, and also I like the fact that Celsius had its arm in DeFi and in CeFi. I think you should diversify your yield sources. So the fact that they're able to generate yield in DeFi and in institutional, I thought was very beneficial.
Yeah, I think CeFi is great for like onboarding people. Because if you ask most people, they're like, oh yeah, I'm in crypto. I bought like BTC on Celsius, right? Or like some centralized exchange. Because it's very easy. I mean, most people are not carrying around their ledger or, dealing with their seed phrase. It's quite nice to have somebody like Celsius.
Well, it can also be nerve-wracking. I mean, you are your own bank now, and so you have all the responsibility in the world of like if your money's lost.
You get rugged, and there's no customer service. You can't call Vitalik, hey, I lost my money.
Yeah, would you see a group of people, like if you look at the profile of Celsius, like the users, right?
Yeah.
You do get the people that know how to use DeFi but choose not to because, for example, right, like think about managing, like if you're somewhat a whale, right, you're trying to move a couple $1 million at once. It's nerve-wracking these days, right? So they much prefer just have Celsius managed on their behalf and earn yield, right? But you also have what I call the grandmas and grandpas, right? So where we have a VIP team where they literally call us and be, hey, like, can you move this coin to can you do a swap or can you do a transfer, right? So like we have the whole spectrum laid out, and I think we're just helping people to generate yield, right? Because we're able to provide a much better yield than the banks, and I think it makes a lot of sense because, if Celsius doesn't exist, if this service does not exist, then those people would never be in crypto, right? Because there's just no facilitators for them. So.
Right. And where does that yield come from? Like, how do you guys generate yield for your users?
Yeah, I would So at its simplest form, right? When Celsius first started, we built a loan book, right? Meaning the relationship we have with hedge funds, institutions, and so forth, right? So a lot of times we participate in the institutional lending and borrowing, right? And that's where the yield is coming from. At the same time, we also deploy into DeFi, and obviously, QiDao is part of that. Is we're able to generate significant yield on DeFi, right? We're paying out 10% on stablecoin, but if you do it right, you can generate 20 to 30% yield on stable coins easily.
Right. That's way better than Bank of America.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. That's awesome. But you guys have Celsius and you have CelsiusX. So like, are they different companies? How does that work?
Yeah. So really, as of today, we're seeing that, well, like we have Celsius, right? But how do we reason about going into DeFi? Now, we can either staff the people with the core engineering group, right? But we believe that probably won't be the most optimal way, because DeFi has its own way of doing things. For example, we tend to operate much more like a DAO, right? Even though it's part of the company, CelsiusX has pretty much autonomy on the things that we would like to work on. So the decision was made that there will be a unique team created for DeFi related activity at Celsius. So today, CelsiusX has its own website, has its own identity, and we have our own BD and so forth, right? It's just so that we're able to really, really make sure that we create a very proactive environment within the team. So that's kind of the rationale there, why we have two entities. But CelsiusX is the same company as Celsius today. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll add, like, the vision for CelsiusX. It's like the cool part about the culture of our team. I mean, that's why I was so drawn to Carl and the team we built, is everyone's DeFi native, everyone's decentralization native, and we want, like, it's all about opening up access.
Yeah.
But like Carl said, Celsius core has a bunch of people that are like grandpas that just want to store crypto and earn some yield on their behalf. But there's also the world of people that are curious, that want access to DeFi.
Correct.
And that's the part that there's a huge gap. And that's the part that we can get the next 10 million users or 100 million users. And that's how crypto wins, is when there's the full spectrum of access. So some people can just put their coins in a centralized place, earn yield. But some people can say, okay, there's these amazing yield opportunities on Polygon and there's all these cool applications, but they can't access them because they don't want to use the Polygon POS bridge, or they don't want to go into self-custody. It's super complicated. And also there's assets that aren't even compatible on Polygon. Like the retail world owns Dogecoin. The retail world owns Cardano. Can't really do much with it yet. But now if we become the part of Celsius that builds the bridges and roads, that makes it super easy to use your coins on another chain, where it abstracts away the whole concept of bridging and also takes away all fees. That's a cool vision. Like, that can bring on a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's an everyone wins scenario, because like then people can go directly to protocols, or they can stick with Celsius and we'll deploy on their behalf. Like, it's the whole world's open, but we're just trying to open up access to blockchains for normies. And we think the bridges and roads we're building is a way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And when is that really kicking off? Like, when are we going to see, CX Doge over on Polygon?
Yeah, so February 22nd. As a matter of fact, if you go on Polygon QuickSwap, you're able to see the pools already.
Yeah.
We are slowly adding more and more liquidity over the next week, and the user should be able to withdraw Doge onto Polygon in the form of CX Doge February 22nd. If we're still doing the last phase of security checkouts and so forth, we have pretty tight security at Celsius, right?
Yeah.
We don't manage our private keys. We have a custodian. Our custodian is Fireblocks.
Yeah.
And they're the biggest these days, right?
Solid.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they have an MPC infrastructure, right? So all the user funds are going through that infrastructure, right? So we're doing the last pieces to make sure like nothing funny happens last minute.
So there's the security aspect, like within CelsiusX, but then how do you look at partners, or like what is your view, and how do you like Yeah, how do you decide on what partners to use in terms of like security and all that kind of good stuff?
Yeah, I was actually talking to Sharon, who was the CSO of Celsius, about this just yesterday, right?
Yeah.
We actually have a very, very comprehensive process when it comes to deployment, right? We look at the protocols. Obviously, the yield has to make sense first, and then we do internal audits on the smart contracts. Despite the fact most of the protocols already have audits, right? We also look at the level of documentation, and we also do checks when it's possible on the background, the team, right? Just to make sure everything lines up. And then we engage with the partners, right? We talk to them, make sure we're aligned. And just in this case, QiDao is a very organic relationship, right? We see, hey, there's QiDao, there's a stable coin on Polygon. Does it make sense? Well, it makes perfect sense. Vivek was the one who was driving this, right? So that's kind of how we form relationships. It just has to make sense, and then the product has to be of quality. So I think usually we go from there.
Okay. Yeah. So we can say that we've had a Celsius audit done now on our website. Like
not just one.
Not just one. We've had multiple Celsius audits now.
Yeah.
No, it's really cool to see on it. Like Celsius is pretty conservative. I mean, like we are like personally everyone's degen in their own way, but there is so much yield in DeFi, and the degen yield can go to the people that want to take a lot of risk. But I think the core building blocks of DeFi, just if we copy over what traditional finance uses, are AMMs, who you'd be able to trade, lending, borrowing, because it just creates natural interest rate markets, and then stablecoins. Stablecoins, I'm sure we can talk a lot about that because that's your specialty, but it's a really important function that's going to help adoption. So just in those three veins, those have been the day one DeFi protocols since DeFi basically started. They're the most vetted, they're the oldest protocols. So we're starting with those. We're sticking with those because we think that's important to seed adoption. What we're not doing is we're not going into like XYZ degen Ponzi thing because it's just, we don't need to. Like it's all about deploying safe, large amounts of capital that's going to create utility. And we're trying to build the roads and bridges, like using collateral to mint stablecoins at healthy collateral ratios. That creates real utility and real yield that doesn't have to be like Ponzi subsidized. So that's one example. Creating lending markets, super, like if you can borrow and lend Doge, for example, that's a cool use case, especially if you can do it on chain. And same thing with AMMs. We're setting up deep liquidity pools so that way we can have liquidity for with QiDao if there's ever liquidations or there's need to do. So just one very big organic thing. But if we start with the super basic building blocks, I think they're safer, they're more established, and less risky.
Yeah, you can definitely get very degen. And there's like a lot of people like building different things that go beyond, I guess, that trifecta of like the lending market, stablecoin, AMM. Now, are Celsius users directly going to be using the blockchain, or how is that going to work? Are you going to like custody their wallets?
Yeah, so before we talk about that, like today, right, like how people can wrap tokens, right? For example, wrap.com, it's institutional facing, meaning you as the project, for example, you're Ripple, you go to wrap.com, you tell them, hey guys, we want to wrap some XRP. They do it for you, and then it appears on Ethereum, right? And then they custody the XRP with, for example, I think some custodian, and then users can go buy the wrapped XRP on Ethereum, and usually in the forms of market making with some partners, right? We see there's a huge limitation with that because it's not user friendly, right? Meaning if you hold these wrapped XRP, it definitely helps to spread the adoption, which is very positive, though it's not optimal in the sense that if I were to hold wrapped XRP or wrapped file coins, I want to be able to go back to the native at any given time, right? So what Celsius does is that user can deposit Doge or ADA in this particular case on the native chain. And again, Celsius uses Fireblocks with the whole infrastructure, right? And then they're able to withdraw, essentially wrap onto Polygon in real time using our backend. So when you perform a withdrawal, you're able to select the network, right? So you can either do the native network or Polygon. And when you do Polygon, everything's automated. The tokens will be coming out of our wallets and then sent to the users. Now, because this complexity of the system, Celsius will always have a reserve minted ahead of time, and we use Chainlink proof of reserve, meaning it's actually implemented into our smart contract, right? So if we have 5,000 Doge, then we cannot mint more than 5,000 Doge in the smart contract. The proof of reserve is actually actively providing data to the smart contract, and if we try to mint more than 5,000, it will be denied.
Gotcha.
It will be denied. So 100% transparency. We're holding ourselves accountable for these type of things, right? And then most importantly, it's retail friendly. There will be some geographical limitations, but if you're outside the U.S., it's pretty much like you can just go ahead and sign up. So
that's awesome. I mean, a lot of centralized exchanges have really dragged their feet with like withdrawals into chains outside of Ethereum, right?
Right.
So that's pretty nice for on and off ramping.
Right, and also, if you think about this, is that I don't believe in like, hey, what chain is your favorite, or what, like, there's no reason why we cannot trade Cardano on Polygon, right?
Yeah.
We just need to make it happen.
Correct.
The other thing is, we're giving Cardano a smart contract on Polygon this way, so
You finally did it.
Right.
You finally made it.
You made it, Ada. Why did you choose? Why did you choose like first Polygon as your?
Yeah, so I can talk about the blockchain,
Yeah.
and also like the choice of the coins, right?
Yeah.
So maybe I can talk about the choice of the coins first.
Yeah, perfect.
We're wrapping ADA, Doge, and ETH, right? ETH is no brainer. It's a gateway. We wrap that, and then ADA makes a lot of sense because there's a lot of demand for ADA to be able to play around with it. So, and we saw users really wanted it, right? So now the Doge is that, when Bitcoin first started, people thought it was a scam, right?
Yeah.
And people, my Chinese family judged me so hard when I told them I'm quitting my job at JPL Nest and go start a blockchain company or go work at one.
Yeah.
They said to Carl, like, you're throwing away your future. This is unbelievable. Then funny thing happens is the president of China says blockchain is the top priority for the nation. The next day, they called me and they're like, Carl, you made the right choice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
But anyway, so like if you look at Bitcoin, it's come a long way where the perception of Bitcoin has gone from, hey, this is a scam. Back in the days, pay with Bitcoin to use RapidShare, the website, right?
Yeah.
For Doge, it's the same thing, right? Who are we to judge Doge, right? People who hold Doge are actually very interesting because, one, you've got large female presence, which is very rare in the relatively rare in the blockchain scene, right? Two is people who hold Doge are not really that into DeFi yet.
Yeah.
And just because it's a dog coin doesn't mean that we can't treat it seriously, right?
Yeah.
If you look at Robinhood, like CoinMarketCap, ample liquidity,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
And
A lot of
ample
volume.
market cap. So I think we should be welcoming Dogecoin holders, and we also look at, well, it's a very unique community, right? So
I think community, like going back to one of the most interesting things about crypto is this whole birth of tokenomics, of why tokens have value and how tokens are born. And we don't have a lot of data. I mean, Bitcoin's relatively new, Ethereum's even newer. But community is one of the biggest drivers of tokenomics. And that's not a really quantifiable statement yet, but Bitcoin's community was so tight knit that now it's basically memed himself into a store of value that companies, maybe even governments, are thinking about using.
Yeah.
So like that's unbelievable. Dogecoin obviously might have started off as sort of a meme coin, but it's gotten adoption and it's gotten an incredible community, and the community is really, really respectable, going all the way to Elon Musk and Mark Cuban, as well as being very retail friendly. Like it's the only crypto it's probably the most retail friendly crypto token that people have access to, and that's really cool. Like if we're trying to onboard the world into crypto rails, like the more the merrier. And if we can open up the world of DeFi to Doge holders, so a subset of those can say, okay, now we can take our Doge and we can earn yield on it. We can mint stablecoin with it. We can borrow, lend it. That's really, really cool. Like that inclusivity is what we want to build with CelsiusX, of being agnostic to tokens and building bridges. And that was just the perfect starting point. And we're going to create a bunch of use cases and maybe make the community even bigger. So like it's all about being inclusive. And it was just a really, really cool first choice. The sky's the limit after. I mean, you can discuss that, but we thought this was a really, really good good set of tokens to bring to.
And it makes sense for Polygon because Polygon has the most active retail wallets that are active, right? We do see adoptions for other blockchains as well, but I still remember when second layer was not really a thing, right? Like, and one day I see OpenSea is supporting Matic. I'm like, wow, like all the other projects are just running around writing white paper at the time. You have a real second layer at the time sidechain, right? And it was actually doing checkpointing. I checked the code. I didn't believe that Matic was real at the time. This was a long time ago, right? And I was like, oh, these guys are doing checkpointing. So the tech is solid. It's mature. It's being around for a long time. Whereas some of the other projects are gaining adoption.
Correct.
And we want to make sure the platform is mature enough for us to deploy, right? So hence Polygon makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, they hustle, you know, like they're not maxis on anything. Like they keep improving. Now with the ZK implementations coming, like they were constantly doing stuff. So pretty bullish on them.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you guys also looking at like a multi-chain strategy, or kind of Polygon one and
so we'll be focusing on Polygon. We will consider other chains, right? But I generally think we should take this thing from 0 to 1 first, and make sure we have a good community around that, right? And then we want there to be a good amount of activity within these pools, and do some lending and borrowing with QiDao. And we'll expand the offering, right? So one of the things I'm asking from the community is like, what are the other tokens you guys want to see? Right? And we're bringing it because the advantage of Celsius really is we're able to bridge non-EVM to EVM, right? And then as far as EVM to EVM, we can definitely talk about, but I think the value is really with non-EVM to EVM, starting with the centralized bridge, right? We're not here to say we're decentralized, but we are, decentralization is really a multi-dimensional effort, right? There's the people you have to decentralize, there's the process you have to decentralize, and there's the code and infrastructure. So we are working towards the decentralization of this infrastructure, which will take a long time, right? The reality is that when Celsius gets into something, we're very conservative when it comes to using the new technology, right? And a lot of the bridges today are very primitive.
And that's we've seen by recent events. I mean, every other month another bridge gets hacked, right? It's a very sensitive thing.
Right, we'll see more and more of these, right? It's just the bridges are not designed correctly. So we'll see evolutions of the bridges over multiple iterations. And whoever gets it right will be a really interesting project, right? So
absolutely.
And then the other thing is, if you think about this, is if we were to use some other bridge, right, you run into this non-fungibility problem. We talked, and with CelsiusX wrap token, we're not going to run into that problem, right? Because we're going to be issuing the contracts on different chains, right? And most importantly, it's going to be capital efficient. Meaning today the bridges, you have to lock up like liquidity on both ends, right? That's even more backwards than the banking system, right? It's essentially the nostril type of banking system. So the idea is you can't prevent this market from moving towards a more efficient manner, meaning what needs to be created will be created, right? So I see a world in the future where you don't actually need to lock up liquidity on either end. I think you guys are doing, QiDao is doing some of that.
We're doing like canonical bridging. Where like you're not really locking, like what's mine, right? There's mine, there's unminted mine. And so you're never locking value, right? Value is just transferred.
Right. I think that's the proper way. It's just that for Celsius today, we still need to observe like how mature the bridges are, right?
Yeah, I mean, you guys have
Yeah.
like 30 billion under management, so
right.
it's like you're dealing with a lot of people's money. You have to be slower. I mean, we're pretty conservative.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, so that was a long
Cool.
way of saying you have a bunch of Matic and you wanted to pump your bag first. and then we'll look at other chains.
Precisely. No, but that's exciting because like Kila and I, sometimes there's like tokens we want to buy, but they just don't exist on Polygon, and
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get a centralized exchange, right? Like, so what do you do? Like, you go to Ethereum. Like, I'm not a billionaire, so
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be buying tokens there. So.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I see a world where why should I go to a centralized exchange to buy Solana? Right. I just want to buy Solana on Polygon. I just want to get exposure on Polygon.
Yeah.
I just want to get exposure to Polkadot on Polygon, Atom on Polygon.
Atom would be pretty cool if we're making the short list already.
Yeah. Atom is super cool, right? I
Yeah.
think Cosmos has a very vibrant community.
Yeah.
Atom, Osmosis is a great decentralized exchange, right?
Right.
So it's all about like tying the pieces together so we
Correct.
make liquidity more easily reachable.
Right. I mean, you were talking about interchain communication, Cosmos. I mean, IBC,
IBC,
right?
yeah.
So
It's
I
brilliant.
mean, it's pretty sexy.
Yeah.
We've been looking at it in the QiDao team lately, and it's pretty cool.
Don't make me have to mute your mic with all this alpha.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a matter of like, you know, getting your Solidity developers to write in a different language, right? That's why
Right.
EVM has done so well, right?
Right.
Because you have a bunch of Solidity devs.
Yeah, it's so widely adopted. You know, one of the issues with, you know, having, I mean, Solana is smart contracts in Rust, right?
Yeah, so that's another another story, right?
Yeah, Solidity is never going away, I think, because it's just so widely adopted. So it's interesting, right? Where these things, how these things evolve and iterate themselves, right? So
100%. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Oh yeah, I have to remember to speak very very close to the mic. Also, are we getting any like community questions? I know.
I mean, we're getting a ton of community like feedback and everything like that, but yeah, I think. We did have. Oh yeah, when Celsius card?
Oh yeah, when are you guys getting a card? CelsiusX card, that would be even better.
CelsiusX card, the decentralized. Let's start with the normal credit card first. It's in the works. There's just a lot of a centralized world moves slower than the decentralized world. I would say that the speed at which Carl's run the CelsiusX team has been unbelievable. It's one of the fastest product rollouts ever, and we operate in the spirit and the speed of decentralization. It's just different, and we want to check all our boxes, be compliant, and make sure the card's the best possible case. So soon,
that's gotta be from one of the Celsius users, right? You already
Must be.
know whoever's asked that. Hey, go every Friday. There's Alex Mashinsky's AMA. You can always ask him there, right?
Yeah.
So he's gonna answer you.
he'll give you a date. I can't give you.
Yeah, man, I gotta be a lawyer in this.
Tell Alex to give you a date.
Yeah, man, I gotta be a lawyer in this space because they're making bank.
Yeah, for real. And also, Carl, you had mentioned that you want to listen to the community to find out which tokens kind of come next. Like, where is your community? Like where are you listening to these?
Yeah, so we
individuals?
have I actually personally, along with Vivek and Josh, who's part of the team, he's the DeFi program manager, right? We have a direct email on our website. It's x@Celsius.
That network.
Celsius.network, right? I
Okay.
almost used the wrong domain name. So just send us an email and we usually reply pretty fast, right? I personally look out for the emails. So that's one way. And the other way really is just via Twitter, right?
Right. So tweet Adam at CelsiusX.
Yeah. And you know, you guys can tweet me, send me messages. I know I don't have an icon. That's by design. I got triggered way too easily, right? So I try to stay off the drama.
Twitter's
on
crazy,
Twitter.
man.
Wait,
It's like a lot of high IQ. Maybe the EQ is not there.
Right. And a lot of trolls.
Right, a lot
Yeah.
of trolls.
You mean you don't have like a board ape yacht club?
No.
Like no
No,
icon,
no.
no NFT.
I mean, I have a
Not
Chinese
yet.
philosopher, so it's not like I have
yeah.
my face on it either.
I thought your entire team was Chinese at first. I was like, oh, this is a
Yeah, everybody
Chinese
tells
team.
us.
Well,
Yeah, either they think we're Chinese or they call us QiDao. So
That's right.
Oh.
That's right. I keep correcting people
Yeah.
within the company, right? Every time we have a call with like CelsiusX people, it's either QiDao or QiDao. I'm like,
Yeah.
guys, it's QiDao.
Yeah.
We heard a
Yeah.
pretty
It was
interesting
it was
one
a
lately.
very interesting
The
one
team
the other
was
day.
crying. It was,
Yeah, it
was
was
like QiDao.
yeah, QiDao.
I shit you
QiDao.
not, somebody said that QiDao.
QiDao.
It triggered Ben very hard. It
Yeah.
like Ben was
And it's
triggered.
interesting to see like how fast people respond to that correction. That,
Mhm.
as a matter of fact, I've noticed the trend is the faster a person corrects himself,
Right.
generally it's a very good sign that this person is actually absorbing the DeFi stuff, and so it's a very good indicator if they're actually making progress on learning DeFi, because not everyone Celsius is DeFi native.
Right.
So
Yeah.
100%.
Let's see. I think there was
No, there's actually one thing I wanted to circle back on, and it's so you have people on Celsius, the like CeFi company. Are they gonna be using DeFi through that like same infrastructure?
very good question. Yes, they will. So we do have a deployment team which does asset deployment into various DeFi projects, right? So I think I'm very glad the proposal is passed with QiDao, right?
Mhm.
So we will be leveraging that in the near future, meaning the deployment team will use the CelsiusX infrastructure to wrap tokens themselves. They're a user of this in this
Right.
particular case, and then they will deploy into QiDao to mint mine
That's
and
awesome.
provide liquidity.
Yeah, I want the grandmas of the world getting involved.
Yeah. Well, the users are getting exposure to that indirectly, right?
Right,
Because
right, through the deployment team.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And users, it's the whole spectrum though. Users that want to degen or want to explore or just want to start getting exposure to DeFi, they can also withdraw using the familiar Celsius architecture, where you just withdraw tokens and
Right.
they'll send it to Polygon, and then we'll educate. Like this whole thing is education. I mean, like
Yeah.
part of this crypto is so under exposed and undereducated, and there's so little awareness. So part of our mission too is to enable people and give people the keys to access all this stuff themselves. And then if they want to home base again, they can come back to Celsius, earn yield the other way. It's really like the whole spectrum.
Right.
Like people should be able to be as decentralized as they want or as centralized as they want, and everything in between, and go. And that's how we get like the whole world to start using crypto rails.
Right. And also, I mean, the education, how do you not get wrecked? I mean, if you have a bunch of
Totally.
normies coming in,
Yeah.
they're gonna get into Chihuahua swap, and Chihuahua swap is gonna wrong. Yeah. So I guess what kind of things are you guys doing within CelsiusX to educate I guess the people usually on Celsius?
Yeah. So that's part of actually part of the cross-functional training, right? We, out of all the companies, Celsius actually does have a real telephone line. It's to me, it's crazy, and I love it, right? So we're training the customer success team to understand how this thing works. So in case people want to call us, we're real.
That's
You
crazy.
get on the phone, right? You ask questions, we're gonna be able to answer. I think that's like the best way, right? Like
Right.
call
Yeah.
someone. I know it's kind of Web1 style of
Yeah.
support, but because we cater to the entire spectrum right now, for those of you who are a little bit fancier, go on our website. Our entire documentation is there. Read up on it, and we even give you instructions. And most importantly, when you withdraw the token to a different network, it's going to give you very detailed instructions, and also give you a overview of like how this thing works. So when you do that, it will warn you, right? So once you withdraw that, really it's out of our hands, right?
Right, because
So
it's theirs.
yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah. So please don't put into whatever that Chihuahua swap.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of education to be had. I mean, you got people like Bankless, others that are really trying to get really like the masses into it, because
Right,
we have a lot of users, but not really, right? Like in DeFi,
Right.
Like CeFi has a
Mhm.
crap ton of users.
right.
How many users does Celsius have at the moment? Just alone?
I think we're in 1.5 million.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We're in 1 million, and it's going up every week. Yeah,
But the
more
point,
than-
the point that you touched on is so important, and it's something that we lose sight of in crypto because we're in our echo chamber of crypto Twitter. So you think the whole world's there, but it's really not a lot of people.
No.
And those people that are there have all been rugged. They've all like
Mhm.
they've all been through their series of losing money. But that's not really the right adoption vector for a lot of people. And if all of our goals is mass adoption and for crypto to honestly be so big that it's abstracted away, so no one even knows they're using crypto, if that's the end game, then we need to focus on education, marketing, and all the stuff that's not sexy on a crypto level, but it works for the real world.
Right.
So yeah, we're gonna have constant content, blog posts, Twitter, like videos, everything, like how to use a liquidity pool, how to provide liquidity, how to use QiDao. That's the only way we can get the next crop of people to start using that and to start actually integrating. And no, it's not going to be how to use like a derivative of Olympus plus convex plus
Right.
that's all cool stuff, but we need to educate on the basic building blocks and how there's yield opportunities in AMMs. And so yeah, you'll see a ton of content, and we'll be here to help. And again, CelsiusX DeFi Twitter, whatever, like we'll be as native as possible in the space. That's the only way.
Yeah. No, we've noticed some of the content that you already put out, like the Finematic style content, which is
I love
really
the
dope.
Finematic style
Yeah.
content. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
No.
pretty nice because we have a lot of, I guess, written content, but video content, I mean,
Yeah,
love videos.
they're the best.
I did want to ask: is this true or not? Is the phone number 1866 HODL now?
I think so.
That's
right?
on the HODL now.
Yeah.
HODL now.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah,
that's awesome.
That's
so,
freaking amazing.
If we want to know what to do over stables, we just
Yeah,
call them.
call us.
Yeah.
Someone will pick up. They're out of, I think the call center is in Las Vegas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
You can go visit it too.
Yeah.
Just say hi.
After you lose everything at the casino, you go visit us.
Right. No, it's awesome because people always say there's no customer service in DeFi. You know, like you lose
Right.
your money, you're gone. You know, or like
Right.
you know what to do. You know, go to Discord. But for a lot of normal people, like I say normal people, they're not gonna go to Discord and ask Frog Monkey. You know, hey,
Yeah.
what do I do with my tokens?
Yeah.
And for institutions, like that's one point to bring up. Like again, crypto, whether or not like whatever the basic principles are, like institutions have capital and institutions need yield, and institutions are going to be the ones that get mass adoption, and institutions need regulated entities and places to call. Like I forgot which institutions that they were trying to call the CEO of Ethereum and they couldn't, so it's like, oh, we can't use this. Like that the middle people need to exist and sort of guide them along the way. Institutions aren't just going to degen ape into Aave farms. They're just not going to do that.
That's fine. We can keep the yield. It's
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have noticed, as crypto has gotten more adoption, or maybe market conditions, like stablecoin yields have gone down.
Right.
Like I remember 40-50% was the norm. Now it's like 10-15.
Yeah, it has. These days, there's more difficult to actually find better yield opportunities. If you get fancy, for example, if you're using QiDao, meeting mine, there's ways you can get some very attractive APY. Like,
oh man, have you ever
70%
levered
plus.
interest-bearing tokens?
Yes, I have. As a matter of fact, I'm a faithful user of this whole thing, right? Where I borrow wrapped Phantom and supply to Yearn, right? And then come back at QiDao to make mine, and then provide liquidity, and then I bridge back to Polygon,
Right.
And then provide liquidity, right? Such a DJ.
And it's not financial advice,
These are
right?
real
Yeah.
DeFi. See,
you
real
kind of have
DeFi
to write
users,
you kind of have to write a bot just to miners. So like,
Well, that's the thing. Right now,
yeah.
like all the strategies is literally like auto compounding, deposits into like lending protocols, right? Or like liquidity pool auto compounding.
Well,
We
the
haven't seen-
degen part is if the price of Phantom is going up, you can actually mint more MI within a certain threshold before the liquidation, right? And then your APY is actually increasing during that period. And it's, to me, it's more about the tokenomics rather than making a profit, right? Well, of course, making a profit is nice, but it's just like what QiDao is enabling people to do, right? It's not possible before. It's like what, like a receipt token in all that, right? So super cool.
Yeah. So you mentioned tokenomics. You guys, Celsius has a token Cell. What are people able to do with Cell? Like, what's the plans? What are some plans there?
Yeah, so for Cell token, we can't talk too much about it. Apologize.
No.
Right? Yeah. Usually, you can get discount on loans and so forth. So, but there are other stuff that's planned, and usually, if I say any more, my legal department's like, Carl, you're in trouble. Right? So,
No, that makes sense. That makes
Yeah.
sense. We respect that for sure.
Yeah,
appreciate
absolutely.
it.
Hey, somebody said Carl was the best.
Oh, thank you.
Carl is the best.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Well, you guys are the best.
No, we're so excited because you guys want to go cross chain. Like we fucking love cross chain.
Right.
So I mean, I see this replicating on all the good chains, right?
Right. And not just EVM to EVM. We want to go to, in the distant future, want to go to non-EVM as well. Because, for example, let's bring mine to Solana.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, Maya is in Solana.
Oh, you
Yeah,
guys
yeah,
are
yeah, yeah.
fast.
Yeah. So
And,
that
I
was,
didn't know
minting is
this.
happening soon. We haven't really released information about that.
yeah.
Right, you can.
You
soon,
leaked it.
yeah,
Okay.
soon you will be able to mint Maya directly on Solana.
Very
Uh,
cool.
that's
And
coming.
interesting enough, actually, Solana was the first other chain that like
We
Mai was
bridged
on.
to- yeah. It was like
Wow.
months ago. Yeah, we Saber, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you guys have the whole other infrastructure there? Like
No,
the
not yet,
vaults and-
because Rust.
Rust. Yeah.
But we partnerships, right? So
Right.
soon we'll be able to make that happen. Because a big thing for us is security, right? Like we don't want to
Right.
get hacked, and then
yeah.
things like go down. So yeah, I mean Solana is one, near, right? Like the Rust people. I fucking love Cosmos. I like that whole ecosystem. Kusama were there. So yeah, it's like definitely EVM is awesome, but there's other things that you can do.
Right. Unify everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
The cool part too is Maya across chains, and it's like we'll have wrapped CX tokens that are wrapped CX tokens canonical across chains. What that does at the end game, like the very very end game, is it removes all the chains from the user
Right.
experience. The user shouldn't really care what chain they're on.
Correct.
They should just earn yield from the best places and just not have to think about it. And that's when blockchain really wins, because we're doing all the stuff on the back end, and users can choose to be as degen as they want. They can do complicated strategies like Carl does, and everything in between to just lending collateral and minting stablecoins. So I don't know. This is what I love about QiDao is you allow everyone to customize their yield in whatever way they want.
Right.
And you can be super simple, or you can be super complicated. You can go cross chain, but that's the part that the traditional bank system doesn't give. Bank system says, okay, here's 0.1% for a savings interest account. like that's the only option.
And then they take it, and now actually there's no reserve requirements in banks. Like
Yeah.
they
That's
took it out
right. They
during
removed
COVID.
it. Yeah.
And like
That's
what
horrible.
what are we doing here, guys?
It's a different system. I mean,
Yeah, and at the same time they're like printing money, so it's
Yeah,
like
we've seen certain types of stable coins where it's like I don't
Yeah.
there's different types of stable
there's
coins.
different types of stable
Yeah.
there are
coins,
different
right?
kinds of
Yeah.
stablecoins.
Yeah.
Different risk. I mean, we're pretty conservative, as you guys know. Banking background, mathematics background. Like we try to stay like within the realm of like what's safe while we are still having fun with the degen stuff.
Yeah.
There's plenty of ways to grow. There's so much opportunity. All we need to do as crypto is not trip over ourselves. And yeah, I mean, we know a lot of different stablecoin mechanisms, and we don't have to play favorites. But there's a reason that having the over collateralized sort of conservative model you guys have just makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's about long-term sustainability. If you're really trying to 10x the amount of Mai that's in circulation, like has to be done the right way.
Correct.
And we also want to be more responsible than other stablecoins
Other
slash
stablecoins.
just other currencies. that
Right.
exist
No,
today.
yeah,
I mean,
currencies, man.
like we should just show that crypto can actually create responsible, self-governing ways.
Yeah, and QiDao, you guys are pretty big on native multi-chain, right? So
Right.
you are actively working with partners, the ecosystem to go multi-chain, right? And I think that's most projects are not like that, right? I think this is huge because, like what Vivek was saying, is that in the future people should not worry about like what chain you're on, right? For all we know, Mai can be on Cardano when smart contracts is ready, or if it's already there, right?
Yeah.
And it'll be super helpful because it's almost like different blockchains, different universe today. It's like, Benjamin, you're on Polygon. I'm on Doge, and I can't write an email to you because hey, we have different internet providers.
Yeah.
Right? So
That's pretty crazy. Yeah.
yeah. So we need to fix that. Right?
At the end of the day, it's just different shops in
Right.
different blockchains, but it doesn't really matter.
Right.
Yeah.
Aave should be no different than Scream, right? Well, better comparisons Compound than Scream,
Scream,
right?
yeah.
Right.
You don't have to worry about like where you're at. You just need to worry about the rates. And then I envision like there's going to be an aggregator
Oh, see, that would
Yeah.
be
cross
cool,
chain,
yeah.
right?
Yes.
And you have like a monster MetaMask that understands all these stuff and just click
Yeah.
and go, right? And underneath, whether it's like being bridged to like the same bridge or different bridges, that's less relevant, right? So I see that as the future where people just need to worry about the yield, right?
Yeah, I mean, my dream is like I can deposit some collateral into Polygon and be able to borrow on, Phantom, or borrow on Avalanche, something along those lines as well. Just kind of,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Aave is pioneering that right
Yeah.
now. Behemoth of a project that they're doing.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
interested to see how that.
I do just notice you're actually like a DeFi guy talking about Scream, everything like that. You're in there, man.
You're
Like,
not a CFI guy.
Yeah. I
He's
was around
masquerading
since
as
the
DeFi.
early stage of ICO where I lost 99% of all my entire portfolio, right? Because you see, wow, like I just 50x my stuff. I'm gonna 50x again, and I will retire, right? So
No, we've
Yeah.
we've all had DJing experiences losing money.
Yeah, I mean, if you
We made it
haven't,
art to lose money.
yeah, exactly. I'm terrible at that. We do have a few questions, and then we'll continue conversation. But is CelsiusX hiring at the moment?
we're always hiring,
Always hiring.
and in these days, talents are like exotic animals. This is very rare to find. If you're a good engineer, and you're not writing assembly code,
Mm-hmm.
just send us email to x@celsius.network, and I will personally filter these right with Josh.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah, I know
Perfect.
you guys have pretty good devs working on the bridges and stuff.
So I've heard.
Oh, he's sitting right over there.
Yeah.
Not paying attention.
Yes, exactly.
We actually have engineers right there, just sitting there
Yeah.
coding. So.
Yes.
Is it mainly just engineers that you're looking for? Are there other types of positions that are open at CelsiusX?
So I do see an indicator of like people who are emailing that email address are very passionate, right? And I'm huge on bringing more people that are passionate about crypto into the company. So even if you're not an engineer, just if you feel like you want to be part of this whole thing here, maybe on the CFI side or the DeFi side, just send us an email. And we usually just like, if we think there's going to be a good fit on the CFI side, we'll forward your email to the proper departments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Perfect.
We'll also add to like CelsiusX is pretty self-contained in terms of autonomy. So like we try and do everything at once. Everyone does everything in terms
Right.
of like it's one thing to be engineering heavyweight, but it's another thing to also get adoption of tokens and to think about tokenomics and to think about very deep DeFi research and to think about how to market all this stuff, not just to DeFi natives, but also to the broader community to create educational content. Like literally the sky's the limit. So if the mission makes sense, send us an email and there's infinite work to do.
Yeah,
Again, we're just getting
Oh.
started with this deployment, but there's gonna be more tokens. There's gonna be more places to use those tokens. There's gonna be more chains. It's gonna be the secret research to try and like make this as native and decentralized as possible. So like come work with us. It's really fun.
Absolutely. Awesome. There's another question from Royal Aid. How do you guys handle UX? Seeing as now we're kind of going and you guys are kind of dipping into DeFi, which is a little bit more of like that Wild West area. Kind of explaining a little bit more of the risks that users can get into and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So for this iteration of token wrapping, we're using the existing backend in the web app, right? It's not available on mobile by design because I have yet to be convinced that you should be doing DeFi on mobile, right? So when someone convinces me that, then we'll add it. So you go to the web app and it's really simple, right? You just select the network and it goes. In the future, when we build out the decentralized infrastructure, that's going to be a huge lift.
Yeah.
So we're actively hiring product designer that is DeFi native to solve these problems, right? Preferably someone that has worked on bridges before. We're very engineering heavy, and we suck at front end these days, right? So we're gonna fix that, right? We're gonna hire great talent and to solve that, but it's a long road, right? Like we're not going to have this decentralized wrapping and unwrapping overnight. It's probably going to take us years to get it right. Of course, we're going to go on testnet first, But the UX is a very good question, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm starting to think. I had a really good conversation with one of the product designers. I'm thinking we might need to have multiple versions of the UI just for various caliber of users. Because like for me, you try to show me how this thing works, I will get tired. I'll get annoyed, right? Just give me the interface, I will figure it out.
Yeah.
But for less DeFi native people, they need hand holding. So maybe there's going to be like tooltips everywhere, right? The idea is the easier we can make it work for people, the better, right? And it's okay if we have to put tons of work into this, because if we get it right, then more people can be onboarded.
Exactly. Ape mode and non-ape mode.
Yeah, they have ape mode. I've seen that around some people.
Yeah, I think the one of the very powerful thing there is, for example, right, you have these chains that are just not smart contract enabled. I know there are some other projects doing this already, but they charge a fee. Like imagine going from Bitcoin to Ethereum natively and going back as well without fees, right? I think that's huge, because a lot of times 0.3% is too much.
Yeah.
Right. It costs $10 to make a $50 million trade on some of the platforms, right? Stocks, right? So why are we charging people 0.3% fee to cross the bridge, right? Like Coinbase charges 0.5% to make a trade.
They make a lot of money.
Round trip is 1%. That's robbery.
Yeah. No,
can you imagine, like, you make a round trip and 1% of your portfolio is gone?
Yeah, exactly.
No, you've seen it with the bridges and some centralized exchanges like Coinbase. They make a lot of money.
One really neat thing for that some bridges do, like for example Elk, when you do bridge, they do give you a little bit of gas, like you can trade a little bit of for some gas
Elk
token.
is your, like, because we test everything we do, and so when we go to a new chain, it's like, where do we get our gas from?
Before he figured out Elk, he was always hitting me up like, bro, can you send me gas?
My gas provider.
Yeah, that's a huge problem. I think Terra gets it right? Like you can pay in UST or Luna.
Yeah.
I remember I had to get gas on Chronos, and
it's
impossible because
it's impossible. You gotta know someone. Like we just go out to like the decks we're working with, and they're like, "Can you please give us some?"
Just need a little bit so you can make the trade.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. So you mentioned mobile. How many of your users on Celsius are actually like mobile users versus then?
Oh, mobile is top priority.
Yeah,
because a lot of users exclusively use mobile, right? Because we only have mobile. And then we added the web app.
Correct.
So mobile is top priority. But for DeFi, again,
I couldn't imagine doing the stuff I do.
True, but also for we're now in the mobile generation. So I think like going back to the UX stuff that Carl and you guys were talking about, I think US is the single biggest thorn in the side of crypto. I mean, I think crypto people want to use the curve interface where it looks like Windows 95, but that is not going to get any adoption. So we also need spectrums of UX to the point where like Argin's actually a really cool one-click solution where they just say, okay, abstract away everything and just earn yield by just clicking. That opportunity should be there too. And we have the engines to be able to do the bridging for them, do the deployment, do the yield harvesting for them. But that's if we're going to go on mobile, we need that rather than having like 18 different farms to approve and to click on. So the UX part's super important, but yeah, on the mobile side, we'll just need very, very clear ways. Okay, here's how you earn yield on XYZ chain. That's it.
The other thing is I just don't feel comfortable holding the private key on mobile, right? Like you lose it. I know there's different levels of protection. It's just like if you're moving tons of money, it's like add this box.
Okay, so you're moving tons of money. Wow.
If you are, you need to have the proper infrastructure, right?
No, I know people that like with a lot of money, for example, just to make a mask, and just like there's a spectrum of security and taste. You got Safe, you got Ledger, stuff like that. I don't know if my mom, if my uncle will ever use like a Ledger, but
good luck with that, right?
Yeah.
So
a lot of back-end magic is gonna need to be done. Yeah.
My mom was a software engineer, but she still goes like, "What is crypto?" I'm like, "Mom, just go look it up."
Yeah.
She used to code for the IBM mainframes, right? So I was like, okay, well, if she cannot figure this out, like,
then nobody.
We have very little hope.
Yeah.
Right. So it would just take time. And,
yeah, absolutely. We are at the top of the hour. I don't I don't want to kind of take up too much of your time. So, I mean, are there any kind of last questions you're thinking of, Ben, or are there any kind of last bits of knowledge or things that you wanted to share, Carl, Vivek?
One piece is let's try to welcome Doge, right? I
Right.
know there's people are not, some of the community members are not very happy with that. But I generally think, who are we to judge a certain coins community, right? We should all be friends, and if Dogecoin holders want to go on Polygon, we should let them, right? And
Yeah.
the other thing is that if we judge too quickly, then Bitcoin will not have a chance to succeed in the first place. Right?
Absolutely. No, I was looking at some charts, and Doge is less volatile than some of the other collaterals that we have. So,
It's just like
Right.
the headlines win, right?
yeah,
Right.
yeah, exactly.
Cool. Awesome. Well,
me-
yeah, I don't have any other questions unless Kila, I don't know if there's more community questions.
Let me just see here. Last community questions. Feel free to throw them in. But no, I mean, I'm good. I'm really happy that you guys made it out to ETH Denver. We're here in Denver now. I get to see you guys in person. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun ride between Celsius and QiDao.
We're gonna make some cool
Yeah,
shit together, guys.
yeah.
Yeah.
For sure, for
Partnership
sure.
would be so fun. I'm excited for it. It's the future. I mean,
Right.
Yeah, it really is.
bridging parts of DeFi and parts of DeFi and making 1 + 1 = 3. That's like sort of what we want to do.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well,
Cool.
thank you so much, guys. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, audience. We'll see you next time.